any specific need for sign language, any requests for that? I don't see any right now. If you want to stay here for just a few more minutes, that would be great. This is the listening session. We do this, or we're supposed to do this about every quarter, but I think COVID kind of threw us off this time. In the back are some lunches. Now, we kind of thought that we'd just have you pick those up on the way out. I would like to emphasize that initially those lunches are for those who are unhoused, and then if there's any left, certainly if you're a community member, you're welcome to that at that point. But I would like to give the folks who are unhoused a chance to pick up that lunch when we're done. As it's 1 o'clock, if you're really, really starving to death, you can grab one of those right now if you're unhoused and do that. I'm Steve Charbonneau. I work for a nonprofit organization. I don't represent the city. I don't represent any of the parties that are involved. I'm here to make sure that we have a good meeting and that we hear and understand everyone. I think that's the most important thing. So many times in these conversations, and they're difficult conversations, they're not easy. So many times I don't think we hear and understand everyone as well as we could. And so that's really my goal. I want to make sure we do that. And so a couple of my expectations, I know that we view these issues differently. I know we have different answers that we'd like to get. I know we have differences in opinions. As we talk about those today, as you have a chance to stand in front of the mic, as you have a chance to tell me what you think, what's working well, what's not working so well, one of the things that's going to be important is that we do that respectfully. I don't want you to personally attack anybody else. I want you to stay to what are the issues and the concerns. That keeps the meeting productive. If you start straying too far from that, I'm going to jump in and interrupt you and try to get you back on track so that we can have productive, helpful conversations. So that's kind of one of my roles. The other role is just to make sure we move through the process in a good and timely manner. I need to be done by 2:30. If we say everything we need to before then, that's fine, but I want to make sure that we're done by 2:30. I understand from the last settlement that there's probably 3 specific pieces that we're looking for out of a meeting like this. We're looking for feedback on city programs, we're looking to discuss issues and concerns, and we're looking to see if we have any ideas or proposals or for solutions. So we're going to do that. That's going to be a part of our program today. We're also going to get an update from the city. There are a number of COVID-related as well as housing issues and general health issues that we want to speak to, and the city's going to give us some fairly short updates on that. I also spoke with Heather here, so if you want to queue up, the things we do have to do just in these sort of crazy COVID times is we've got to wipe down the mic, so you'll have to bear with us on that. Ma'am, if you want to speak to this mic that way, maybe we can just run back and forth between the mics and keep it going.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Sarah, if you want to speak just a slight bit closer to the mic, though. There you
Hello.
go. There you go.
Sarah, hello. I'm as homeless can be. This is my family. I'm out here every day with them. As far as the city and everything else, what they're doing is nothing. Not a thing. They are doing nothing to help. They are harassing. They are humiliating. They are doing everything to take away our right to exist. Literally. There is no bathrooms. There's no showers. There's no nothing. 90% of the organizations that help us, once COVID started, they stopped. They've got piles and piles and piles of donations they refuse to take out because of COVID and just they don't have time for it. So I go around to all of them, I check on everybody, I make sure everybody has what they need, thanks to the Homeless Out Loud, who if it wasn't for them, none of this probably would have been happening. And so very grateful to them. But the city, 16th and Grand, that's where I was camped at. I guess a cop in Boulder got shot or something, so Monday they had a funeral for him. They put signs up on our tents, 48 hours is what they gave us. Nope, we had a, hello?
That one's...
Hello? Oh, hello.
It has an attitude, I'm sorry.
It happens, you know, I'm kind of annoying, so it works. But no, they posted on our tents, we had 48 hours to get out. There's 11 tents. First of all, not even close to what they were supposed to do. 3 days, 3 tents, 10 tenths, 7 days. That's hello? Okay, doesn't like us. Are we having fun?
Calling the city into account. and the
I'll
mic
tell you
breaks
what,
up.
if you want to run over to that one, I'm not sure why that one's not working for us. I'm sorry about that.
Hello? Okay, hi, I'm back again. Anyway, moving on. Instead of giving us 48 hours to move, they literally made deputies post up in the parking lot until every tent was moved. They said, we can move back. This is exactly what they told everybody. No, not true. They went in, as soon as we moved, started bulldozing the grass and putting rocks up. Wow, that's real cool. Literally standing there in the parking lot, just, intimidating people, which was ridiculous. Had the funeral Monday. Salvation Army was there, passing out snacks and supplies and drinks to officers. I've not seen the Salvation Army once since COVID happened, come anywhere near us. No Salvation Army, no nothing. 90% of it has been from the community, no one else.
Okay.
Which is another thing that's ridiculous. So everything that was supposed to have our back, nonprofits, government, city, as far as they were concerned, we were nothing but trash. And that's how they've treated us ever since. And you can help and have nonprofits and be concerned, but until you're out here, you have no clue.
Okay.
None.
And that's one of the reasons we want to listen, because I want to make sure we're hearing that. I've got somebody from my organization, Sarah, over in the corner, who's taking notes, and so we'll put a summary together. I appreciate that.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. And after this lady goes, who do we have next? Okay, if you want to start making your way up here, that would be great.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. God bless you all. My name is Rody Rivera, and I'm currently homeless. I'd like to say that I can appreciate what the lady before me has said about organizations coming forth to present concern. Right now, I'm at the Ramada, only by the grace of God, and that's fine. That's by the Salvation Army. What they do is you go through an intake process and they house you. And once they house you, they put you in a room and then you're left there. Nothing else is said. You have no case management. You have no resources. You don't know from one day to the next if they're going to have you get out, moved out, or put to somewhere else. I think that issue needs to be addressed because somebody like me, I know how to advocate on my own behalf and I know how to utilize my own resources. However, I've noticed throughout this homeless experience that there are a lot of people who don't have that knowledge, who don't have those resources and don't know what steps to take next. I think it's very important that in each organization there is one, if not more, people to advocate on behalf of the people that cannot do so for themselves. I realize that money is an issue and those things can't just be bought about, but with all the volunteers that I've seen throughout this homelessness, I think we should put together something like that, just an idea. Also, I would like to say that the people that I see in the tents, all the way from 30th and Downing up and all over the city, really hurts me and really I'm heartfelt for those people. I mean, when it was that blizzard, they actually slept there through that blizzard. And although there are limited shelters, there's still a need for those people that need immediate addressing. Whatever the city and state can do to make that happen would be greatly appreciated, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your suggestions. Thank you. Shall we try this mic again? Let's see if we can make it work. Go ahead. I'm gonna let the lady, you'll have to stand a little closer to it. We'll see if it works, and if not, we'll switch.
It's not working. Oh, it is.
There you go.
So, my name is Sophie. I'm pretty sure some of you have seen me on Channel 4, Channel 9. I'm very outspoken on homelessness. And yes, we have the SOS camps, but there's only two. You got millions and millions of people that are not getting help with mental health, physical. I mean, I'm out here, I've been out here since I was 12. I'm 41. So that's years. And the sweeps, they don't work. You just get them piled up everywhere else. That's all you get. Is when we need people to stand together and stand united. And the government funded things to help us. And yes, COVID's going on, but you know, there's people out here, churches that are still feeding, that come out and come to the homeless camps. And it's like I said before, I think Governor Polis come out here and spend 24 hours where I'm at and see what we go through on a daily. Some of the officers that I've talked to say the same thing. So it's not that we can't be heard, it's that things aren't getting done. We can say it all day long. Every day we can say it. It's until you put it in action that you're gonna see in action. Like most of the cops say, we're out here having a bad attitude. Well, come be in our shoes and tell us that you will be in a happy mood all the time.
Sure.
We're not. And we're not to be happy every day. We're in the weather, we're in the elements. I have a dog that's 3 years old. My dog's out here with me. And the cops are like, you can't have him out here. Yes, I can. I'm his owner.
Okay.
You know, it hurts me to see that homelessness hasn't changed. There ain't nothing that's changed about it, except for you got a few camps here, you're putting them in the Ramada. I asked for a hotel voucher and couldn't even get one. A couple that camps next to me asked the same thing. You know what we got told? Make money and go get it yourself. Okay, if I could make money, I would be doing that.
Sure.
But I have physical and mental issues that I can't get a job. Plus on top of, I'm a second-time felon. So there's no place, there is, but there isn't. So it's kind of like the guy said on Denver Out Loud when I was doing my interview. If the people don't want to see us, put us in housing.
Okay.
It's as simple
Fair
as
enough.
that.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Let me get that. All yours.
Hi, I've been homeless for approximately 24 years. And never have I seen anything happen like it has in this state. I spent a few weeks, look,
You know, we'll go back to this one. I'm sorry.
that's okay, Pat, it might be dead. All right, so we know that one works. All right, so I spent about 6-7 years on these streets homeless. We have been forced by the cops when they are impeding the federal injunction by not giving us our 72-hour notice. I was moved from my place. I beat them 3 times. On the 4th time, they forcefully, aggressively asked me to move. I could not contact my people, my friends, and those that help us to help out. So therefore, I believe that they waited until that time to actually come and move us. They were bullying us. Today, in between Curtis and Arapio on 21st Street, your officer, can't pronounce this, but I have the card right here, forcefully moved a large encampment to move when they were given till tomorrow to move. But they have been forcibly moved, and now they are out in front of, what do you call that? Where you get your mail. I'm sorry, I'm not all there in the head either.
Post office.
Thank you. Okay.
St. Francis, okay.
No, they're not now
No?
from St. Francis. I'm talking about the post office.
Oh, okay.
On
I'm sorry.
21st
I'm sorry.
and Champa. These guys are out there, they got all their stuff vetted out. They were told that they were gonna be arrested for drug charges and for trespassing. When the day before yesterday, they were told that they had till tomorrow to move. Now, because it's opening day and you don't want the public to see how the public treats the homeless, come on, work with us. We will work with you.
Sure, sure.
Please, and I apologize for my anger, but I sit in this situation too. I have a job. Okay, and I know that some other people have incomes, but you know what? With those incomes and our jobs, we still can't afford rent.
Sure.
I'm on a housing waiting list for almost 8 years. I finally got one letter back today. One. One. So where's the help?
I'm glad you got the one letter today, but 3 years is a long time. I give you that.
I'm a single white male with no kids. Y'all ain't gonna offer me nothing. I score on the SPDAT a 14 out of 16, which means I'm high risk, but yet you won't want to take care of me. I got my COVID shot because I'm at high risk because of health and mental and physical problems.
Got it.
I'm doing my part.
Fair enough, and I've heard a number of folks step up and talk about the noticing on the camps, and so I certainly, Sarah's got that down. That's certainly a point that we'll try to
They're
address.
violating it themselves
Yeah,
by forcing us to move, by sitting there and threatening to arrest us for things they have no probable cause on because all they're doing is making excuses.
Okay.
They don't give a crap.
At this point, I can take notes, take the summary. You've got city folks here that are hearing, and I think you raise a very legitimate concern, really.
All right, so here's
Appreciate
one more
that.
note before I get off the mic.
Okay.
If it's illegal for me to lie to a police officer, why is it legal for them to lie against me?
Because nobody stands up.
Thank you, sir. I've got a couple more minutes. I would say let's take this mic here. We know it's going to work for us, and we'll get it wiped down in just a moment.
Neither the city nor the state have any plans to end homelessness. They obviously enjoy it.
Can I get you to stand just a smidge closer or pointed there? There.
Okay. Speak a little quieter. There are neither the city nor the state, and I have it on records from both the mayor's office and the governor's office, as well as all 13 city councilors. None of them have any plans to end homelessness. I cannot imagine why, other than the people that bribe them to continue what's going on enjoy it, because the money keeps sucking up to them and away from others. There's also no law enforcement for any bribery or any corruption. DPD has never investigated even a piece of paper, not investigated a single bribe of Michael Hancock. I don't need police that don't do their jobs. If there's anybody that can possibly say that Michael Hancock is not bribed, I mean, that's ridiculous. He is. I know he is. There's no oversight over the Brown building over there, Dora. This year, our state legislatures were so bad that they actually, in the month off that they had between January 16th and February 16th, they held their sunset reviews in complete secrecy away from the public. And next year will be a board of appraisers, and then the year after that will be the bankers. People don't rise up like on those two sunset reviews and others. We're going to continue this because they're completely lawless. We need some law enforcement, we need some anti-corruption, and we need plans to end homelessness, and I will be suing the city for their failure to have any plans to end homelessness.
Okay, thank you, sir. Going once? Twice? I see a couple, oh, there you go. Sorry, you snuck up on me there.
Sure.
Please, go ahead.
So I've been out of town for the last 5 years. I just came back about a month ago, and I've seen a big change in this city compared to what it was then. I understand COVID had a big impact, but here's the issue that I see, is that was a year ago when COVID hit us. Vaccines have been out for a while. I know a lot of people have been getting them. I'm currently homeless. I'm staying at a Crossroads shelter just north of downtown here. It's been nice being there, but I've seen a lot of people come and go. Some of them have jobs, some don't. They had a big area that was called overflow. They were putting maps on the floor, letting guys come in. When we had that big storm last week, they let the guys stay for, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. But other than that, They gotta be up and out by 8 o'clock the next morning. They can't come back in until 5:30 at night. And in the last week and a half, I've noticed that they're starting to get rid of those mats on the floor. So with COVID not giving us enough jobs out here anymore, because nobody wants to get close to anybody anymore, I understand social distancing. Sure, we got masks, we got vaccines. There's other PPE that we could be wearing to help us. But the thing is that I'm saying is we're not getting enough help fast enough, even though it's been a year.
Great. Thank you very much. Chance for some more thoughts, some more inputs as we get a little further on in what we need to get done today. I do want to give the city and I want to give Denver Homeless Out Loud a chance to both speak into the mic and share kind of what's going on and share some of their issues and concerns. So I'm going to move to that part, and I'm going to ask you to just sort of hang on and listen to what they're sharing, and then you'll have a chance to come back and comment and have some suggestions on that. So I'm going to start out with Britta Fisher. She's the Executive Director of Office of Housing Stability. I'll get that right. And she's going to talk a little bit about the COVID update on the security and the part of that. I can't read my writing here. I apologize, Britta. Tell us what you're going to talk about, and I apologize for not being able to read what I wrote a little bit ago.
All right. I'm Britta Fisher. I'm the Executive Director of the Department of Housing Stability. And I'm here today. We also have Evan Dreyer from the Mayor's Office. And I was asked to just acknowledge the 1-year milestone we've had, as the last gentleman just spoke, of COVID-19. A couple things to know about the COVID response. In those first days, as we started to understand the virus, and with the help of our colleagues at the Department of Public Health and Environment, we understood that we needed social distancing and physical distancing. And so that really impacted about half the beds in the shelter system here in Denver. And so with that, we had to really create more space. And we've done that, as was spoken about, with about 1,000 more hotel and motel rooms. We stood up additional shelter. That's now serving about 60% more people than we did the 2 weeks prior to the pandemic. So there's been a tremendous demand on shelter. At the same time, I know that shelter's not everything. And so there's been increase in services. There have been nurses dispatched with outreach to help people qualify for those hotel and motel rooms to screen for symptoms of COVID. We've also rehoused more than 1,800 households in this past year through rehousing programs. I know those are important things, and like the speakers have said, there's more to do. There's more to support and more to help. And so we'll keep working on that. We have some news that we want to share, because in the last 2 meetings we were asked to present about some of the housing that's being built and how we can access that. So I want to ask Megan Yankee from the Department of Housing Stability to come tell a little bit more about what housing is coming, and thanks for being here today.
Britta. Thank you, Britta.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Yankee. As I said, I work for the Department of Housing Stability, and we've been working really hard to get new housing units built. Not fast enough, but hopefully you'll hear what we've been up to. So we have 254 new units that will be available within the next 21 months. They're under construction right now. So let me talk about where those units are. There will be 48 new units at Warren Residences, which is in Cheeseman Park. It's a St. Francis Center project, and it'll be available in September of this year. There will be 98 new units at Legacy Lofts, which is in 5 Points. It's a Colorado Coalition for the Homeless project, and it'll be available in July of 2022. There will be 72 new units at Valor on the Facts, which is on East Colfax Avenue, and it'll be available in September of 2022 as well. And then there will be 36 new units at a project called Charity's House, which is also in 5 Points, in December of 2022, so 254 units. And we also have a pipeline we're working on toward financial closing on another 122 units. 29 of those additional units will be at the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless buildings at the Forum and Off-Broadway Lofts. There will be another 49 units at Rhonda's Place, which will be off of Federal Boulevard. It's a Ready Corporation project. And then there'll be 44 new units at another project to be announced when they get tax credits. So working as quickly as we can with the new 2B funds, with as many partners as want to build housing as possible. So I don't know if you want to take any questions on any of that, or just like.
I'm okay if you want to take a couple of questions. Let's start
Yeah.
here, Ben.
So what the units you got
Ben,
coming?
if I can bring you over to my mic,
Okay.
you can just speak into it.
With the units that we have coming, how does that compare to the increase in homelessness? Are we gaining ground or are we losing ground, and how much?
Does somebody want to answer that? I've got hands up in the air, but I'm looking for answers. If we don't have an answer right now, we're not going to get an answer to every single thing that we asked today, but we will get that answer back to you. So, do you want to answer that now, Britta?
I'll just give a little context, Ben. Your question is about housing affordability and homelessness. So the units that Megan just mentioned are supportive housing units at 30% area median income and below. So folks making less than $25,000 a year. We have a lot of other units across the spectrum as well. And we have about 105,000 households here in the Denver Metro and City of Denver that struggle to afford housing. So we have a pipeline across that spectrum, and Megan was telling about some of the units that are coming at that lowest income spectrum.
Thank you. I know there's a number of hands, but I also know that Angie's going to speak to a component of this. So I don't know, Megan, is there something else you want to say around?
Yeah, also 30% of area median income, those are all covered by vouchers, so you would only pay 30% of your income toward housing.
Anything else you want to add, Megan, or?
Well, before I end, I would just say, how do you access the housing? So 50% of the units must be sourced from One Home, which is the coordinated entry system that most of you are probably familiar with your VI SPDAT. So 50% of all the units will be sourced by priority from that system. And then the other 50% of the units are chosen by the service providers. So Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, St. Francis Center, Ready Corporation, and those folks. So two different ways for you to access the housing.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I've got 4 questions. I want to hold off on those just a moment. I think, Angie, you're going to speak to the permanent accessible and affordable housing piece. If you speak to that, and then we'll kind of roll all of the questions together.
Thank you.
Let them ask the questions real quick. Why not?
We'll give this mic a try again. Thank you so well about the different resources that your teams are working to come online for folks. Want to share a few things today. So we've spoken about the pandemic. And in the earliest months of 2021, the City of Denver has provided more shelter to more people than it ever has in the least crowded facilities, and with the most facilities open 24 hours a day. And so we've been happy to be able to provide more and in different types of environments than we had previously. The city, under the Department of Housing Stability, has also expanded new programs to serve those who are not coming inside for whatever various reasons. Host has expanded outreach with a team focused specifically on large encampments. This team, comprised of a nurse, outreach worker, as well as peer navigation of folks who have personal experiences of homelessness, visit more frequently to those large camps and stay longer to engage with folks towards outcomes of housing. With more housing being available and more in the pipeline, to Megan's point, outreach is more connected than ever to real housing opportunities. In 2020, our host-funded outreach workers from the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, the St. Francis Center, as well as Urban Peak, helped support more people into a housing situation than ever before. This team's contract with the city is accountable to how many persons they house. So that's really our goal with outreach is, of course, connection to services, but also connections to housing. Host has also introduced funding to create sanctioned camp environments with service infrastructure like weatherized tents, bathrooms, hygiene resources, trash service, and 24-hour staffing. So we've contracted for nearly $900,000, which is around 80% of the full operating funds needed for those safe outdoor space, sanctioned campsites. And we have our partner working with communities to identify another appropriate site for safe outdoor space. Both of these new programs are providing promising ways to connect people to housing. We want to be really clear. We believe everyone here, everyone experiencing homelessness in our city is ready to be housed and deserves housing. We know that when housing is available, people don't choose the streets or choose shelter. So housing is really our goal.
So why did Hancock
Our
draw the
work
money from
through
FEMA?
the outreach or shelter programs is really relationship-based. Our work arrives in relationship between program partners and individual persons and families enduring life on our streets. The City of Denver relies on our community-based partnerships to do the work and to hold folks accountable to rehousing solutions for their clients or guests. Still, it's an active process, right? And connections to housing require connections to some of those partner programs to help understand what are your needs, what are the things that those programs can assist you with, or those outreach workers, those service connections can help you with. This might look like engaging with street outreach teams or day service providers, or being assisted at one of our 24-hour shelter programs. This could also look like completing an intake and bringing your housing goals forward. So that could be into the HMIS system or One Home, as someone spoke about, the VI SPDAT. And our partner agencies and outreach workers working with them are accountable to making housing opportunities accessible. So ultimately, the city, our partners are eager to work together with folks to help you to access more housing. That's what I had to share.
Okay, great. I appreciate you sharing that. So we've talked a little bit about housing availability and a little bit about the stability part. So I would say, Angie, Megan, if you have answers to any of the questions that we're about to entertain, wave your hand or jump up to a mic and we'll try to answer those. I will say right up front that we're probably not going to have answers to every single question that's asked. Sarah, will be getting those questions down and we'll try to get answers, but we may not have them here today. So let me start with the lady in the bright red plaid. If you want to start, you have a question, jump right up to a mic. The gentleman behind, if you want to sort of start heading this direction so we can just get the questions up and keep them going.
Hello, my name is Bodie. I have a few questions for Megan. So I am curious about these housing opportunities that are coming up here. Thank you so much for giving us an update. So one of our biggest challenges is our hard-to-house populations, which include people who have felony charges or like sex offender offenses or even domestic violence. So I'm wondering if these programs are going to primarily focus on that or also be inclusive in that population. And then also if the housing is going to be offered to individuals or couples or families or to all, because currently we have a problem housing couples without children. And the gentleman also suggested single males. And then also, because after we house people, we also have an ongoing issue of keeping them housed because we don't have supportive services in place. Somebody mentioned the VSPDAT, which in that it's identified if a person needs substance abuse treatment or support or mental health or whatever else to keep them housed. I'm wondering if those are also things being considered. Thank you.
So those are a number of questions. You got it, Megan? Perfect.
I'm sorry, was it Renee? Bodie, so sorry. Okay, so all these units we're talking about come with supportive services. With a,
Let me let her answer the question, please.
yeah, we did some work and found that each and every unit requires $7,200 per unit per year in services to help people maintain housing. So every one of the 254 units that we're talking about comes with that level of services, partially funded by city dollars. And then to answer your second question, we believe in a housing first and harm reduction model, and every single one of these projects must work off of that model, which means housing the hardest to serve. There are some projects coming up that will, cater to families where sex offenders will have a little bit of a harder time finding units, but in all of these properties, it is a housing first and harm reduction model, and we are not allowing segmentation by the population of those to serve. Did that answer all of your questions?
You're up.
Hi, my name's David. I'm curious as to why, you're telling us what you're going to do, and that's great moving forward, but right now we're in COVID and we have a problem right now. People need housing. Why don't we use the bus station? People can go in there right now and set up camp. People can set up right here if you provided toilets and trash cans. I guarantee this place will be clean. People want to take care of their space, but we're not allowing them to. So why can't we start allowing people to take care of their space?
Fair question. I know that just a little bit later on the agenda, we're going to look at the whole question around restrooms and water and all of those amenities. But let me see if somebody wants to answer that right now.
We have no bathrooms. There's nowhere to go.
Ma'am, you gotta let us get there.
But we are.
Any?
Doing anything.
Okay.
And I want to definitely talk about the bus station because it's just fenced off.
Okay.
Easy to use.
Perfect. We'll make a note of that. I appreciate that. I had a couple of questions over here. There was a question over here. Yes, sir, and then the gentleman behind you. Anna, go ahead, and then I'm going to go over there. Sorry about that.
So I have a number of comments and questions. I've been taking notes. So first, I want to address the 1,000 more shelter beds. While I appreciate that the city is trying to create more spaces for people to go, 1,000 shelter beds, great. But Point in Time put us at 5,000 and HMIS puts us at 31,000. So 1,000 is really just a drop in the bucket of what the actual need is in Denver. Also want to say the same about the 254 units in 21 months. How many more people are we going to have on the streets in 21 months? 254 beds isn't even a drop in the bucket when we're looking at 31,000 unique individuals that touch the HMIS system in Denver Metro. The one thing that we're not talking about is, what about the people that can't get housing? So the large percentage of folks that are needing to be at this meeting are folks that are struggling to survive day to day, that are trying to figure out where they're going to poop next. And that has not been addressed here at all. In fact, our agenda items have been left to the end. We are 42 minutes into a meeting and an agenda where we negotiated where the city would have the last 12 minutes, not the first 12. I like that Angie talked a lot about relationship building. I also believe that we need to do a lot of relationship building and really struggling particularly with District 6 DPD officers who are incredibly aggressive. I was at a sweep where I was actually across the street and heard Officer Lombardi string off a long line of curse words. And I turned around and I said, hey, could you watch your language? And he said, shut the fuck up or I'll arrest you. Didn't have a body cam on. I made a complaint. I asked for mediation, and he was able to refuse mediation with me. I don't think that should be allowed if we're really committed to relationship building.
Amen.
What I would like to see from this meeting is a concrete plan on how the city is going to mitigate the concerns that are shared by the unhoused, the housed, and business owners, which is all of your constituents. We have the same concerns. We want trash picked up. We want poop to not have to walk and poop or pee.
Can I wash my hands?
We'd like to be able to wash our hands during a pandemic that none of us have ever prepared for. Those are the concerns of literally everybody in this city, and I would like to know how this meeting is going to create a plan to mitigate those concerns, because they were the concerns at the meeting at 2019, they were the concerns in the meeting in 2020, and they are the concerns at the meeting at 2021. 3 years people have been waiting to poop in this city. I know affluent white women who have lost a toddler while helping their 6-year-old poop in a bush because tourists stop at our porta potties at Denver Homeless Out Loud because the city has closed 90% of public bathrooms in a pandemic. I want to see a plan. I don't want to talk about a plan. I want to see a plan.
Fair enough. Gentlemen first, believe this mic will work okay for us now? Yeah, it should slide up or something there, I don't know.
I'd like to answer Ben's question. I don't think has been answered, and also ask it in a different way. They don't have any plans for what you're saying, for what you're asking for, Ben. What I have asked before is when are we going to get a study of supply and demand to meet the housing needs of a person making a minimum wage, so that we know how much housing we need to end homelessness.
Okay, good question. I don't know that we have an answer for that right now. I don't know that we have now. Let me get this wiped down, and sir, you wanted to say something? Let me let you go because you've already had a turn at the mic. Let me let. You're okay with that? Okay, fine.
As for the trash being picked up, we do what we can. But when we can't even get trash back from Civic Center, they refuse to give them to us at all. Say sorry about your luck. Yeah, that really doesn't help. Thank God for the Rangers, because these Rangers here, they've helped us a lot. As for any other trash, it is a $75 special pickup fee. Otherwise, they refuse to pick it up. It is not a sanitation problem that they're saying because they refuse to do it, period. $75 once a week for us to have to pay? Pick up the goddamn trash. It's not hard.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, sir.
My question to you guys is the ones that are doing the housing. What needs to be done is you guys are looking at the criminal history when you should be looking at if these people are trying to work themselves out and get themselves off the street, even though if they have to get a job or something. I mean, because there's other people, when I came out of prison, I started doing the same thing too. I started trying to get a job, doing this, doing that. But there's another problem. Criminal history gets backed up. That's a problem that everybody has. That's a problem that everybody's gonna have. That's why so many people are not getting into housing. You guys gotta come up with something realistic there. You know, that's kind of hard for other people that are trying to make it in life and not be at the same spot that they are. That's why you got a whole bunch of homeless people out here, because you ain't trying to do anything. And some of them want to do it.
Yeah, I'll go to the gentleman here, and then I'll go to the, yes. Megan, did you want to address that?
just want to say that with the 254 units and 122, I know how you guys feel about that, but criminal background and history will not be a deterrent to getting housing.
So you're
Okay.
telling me that?
So, as proved by,
Wait, if you got a question, come up here so we can all hear.
by the contracts that we put together with the housing providers, it is a housing first and harm reduction model. So they are not allowed to use criminal history as a deterrent to housing.
So in other words, you're saying that anybody that, even though they have a criminal history, they could go in and get housing,
Yes.
no matter what kind of criminal history they have?
The only exception that we're finding is that in some family housing units, sex offenders are a challenge.
Why don't, I mean, like I was just saying earlier, why don't
But not to the 254 units we just talked about, they are not family housing.
But like I was saying earlier, why don't you try to work with them instead of against them? You know, see if they could try to get themselves out of it instead of having to progress that challenge.
Actually, I'm saying that we are trying to work with them in these housing units. It's
I
not
mean-
allowed to be a barrier.
Right. I mean, that way you guys can get to know them and say, all right, you know what? I know what he's about. I can watch him, you know, or people could watch the person, you know, say, hey, you know what? You're doing this wrong. All right. I'll keep away from it.
I hear you, which is why we've gone through great lengths with these housing units, with our housing development loan contracts and our services contracts to make them housing first and to not allow that discrimination.
And one more other thing. What about like the people that do drugs like crack, heroin and weed and stuff like that when they bring in their
This is
They're
what we
drug
call,
dealers.
Yep, this is what we call harm reduction, so you're not allowed to be turned away for being a drug user.
All right.
Great, thank you both. I want to have two more, and then I've got to move on to a couple of other items. I'm going to go to the gentleman here, and then I'm going to go to the lady there. Either one of those you want. Just grab one of those mics and either make your comment or ask your question.
I have an idea. So I'm an electrician. I haven't been able to find work because I stay in the shelter and people don't employ us like that. But the thing is, y'all are doing some buildings to complexes and things, excuse me. Would you be able to offer an apprentice program through the shelters for people? That way you get people inducted right into the workforce quickly. You save money on your workforce, period. And, because we all know that if you want to get something in life, you got to work for it. But a lot of problems with shelters is a lot of people can't find work. They labor is what they do because that's what they're, that's all they got, but it's not really making steps forward. But with the trade experience, on like getting from one of these projects or whatever, after that, they can move on to, better stuff, greater work or better money or whatever. But that would be, I guess, in my opinion, a good idea if you could offer something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's
The best that they can with what resources they have. However, June 21st, that program will be ended and there will be 1,000 people out on the streets. We've got to ask ourselves what's going to happen to those people, what resources are available to us at this time other than numbers and places. There does have to be some kind of personnel to implement changes so that we can gain and maintain permanent housing. I'm working closely with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, who has been a great blessing as well. Again, there needs to be a plan in place so that we can further our resources and utilize them. If that can be put into a note, it would be greatly appreciated.
great.
Steve, I did just, in this forum, wanted to clarify from Ms. Rivera's statement that we don't have plans for turning off 1,000 rooms of hotel units on June 21st. These are temporary COVID response hotels, and so the city and our partners are working really hard to try and engage with folks exactly as you said towards a long-term solution, and our work rapid rehousing, supportive housing, reunification accommodation with family or friends, as well as helping people with income acquisition so they can get jobs and be able to maybe do roommate situations or afford a place to rent on their own. And so just wanted to clarify that so that misinformation doesn't abound about those hotel rooms.
Okay, I appreciate that. I've got 3 hands that are up, and I'm really limited down on time. So if you guys can jump in and make it pretty quick. Let me start with you, sir, and then I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to move it. Let me let the guy in the baseball hat run first, okay?
I just want to thank you and City Council for the SOS camp. I lived there, I helped build it.
A little closer to the mic, please.
And so far, it's successful for those who want to be successful. So if we can get some more going, it's a good start. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let me go with you, sir, and then I'll go to you.
Well, you got a hard job.
She's getting her exercise.
Right. With all this housing stuff that you guys got going on, here's the question. You got 5.5 thousand vacant lots here in the Denver metro area. You got over 20,000 outside the metro area. The hotels, motels are less than 10% of capacity. And you got nowhere to put us? Oh, that's right. Oh, FEMA offered to pay 100% to put all of us homeless up. But Hancock has denied that money. So where's the help? Where's the love?
Okay, thank you. Sir? Angie, did you want to say something to that? Then we'll go back to the question.
I just wanted to mention that with the FEMA reimbursement that's available, you're right, it is able to be reimbursed, but there's also requirements from the federal government about who is eligible for housing in those different hotel environments, or as the government calls it, non-congregate shelter. And so it's not something that we're able to implement as a solution across all populations. It's been something that folks, we are able to do what we call a protective action for folks with really high risk of serious complications from COVID, and some limited non-congregate shelter where we don't have capacity in the larger shelter system. I want to say though that we are looking more closely at non-congregate shelter as a longer term addition to our city resources, and that.
Hey, I need to let her finish, please. Please let her finish. Please. You're good? Okay, and you've been really patient, so thank you.
Hi, my name is John, and I'm going to honor that question in the back and sort of talk about that just for a second. If there are limitations to who can be housed through the FEMA reimbursement, then yeah, that's a great question. Why are we sweeping all these folks? In 2020, there were 34 sweeps all year long. So far in 2021, tomorrow morning is the 21st sweep of the year. During a pandemic, in the middle of the winter. So if you aren't going to be able to put all these people in housing, then why is the city more than doubling its rate of these violent sweeps every single week?
Amen.
I'm tired of it, and I guess that question can be directed at Mr. Dreyer because he is representative from the mayor's office, who is the ultimate power that can say, let's stop the sweeps, and they haven't done it. So I direct that to you.
Like I said, some questions we're going to have answers for today, some questions we're not. So, and if you're going to have to be quick on me because I want to make sure we have time to get back to your other item on the agenda.
Yeah, it's really unlikely we're going to get to our agenda because of how this has gone so far, so I'm just going to speak. I want to add to what John, Nate, and some other folks here were saying about the sweeps. We had the most amount of snow ever recorded in the month of March this year. Not the last snowstorm, but the snowstorm before that, we had 55 people admitted to the Anschutz burn unit for frostbite. The very first man that I moved in my official capacity at D-Hole lost 5 of his toes. He had to give up 5 toes to get housing. How many limbs do people have to lose to get housing in this city? Because all the people I know that have gotten housing have gotten frostbite, or they've had a stroke, or they've lost a limb. That's the cost of housing in this city.
Yeah.
4 people died in that storm. Sorry, I have some notes here, so I'm just going to pull them out.
Ma'am, I need to let Anna speak to this, please.
It's okay. Sophie is, I am quite used to Sophie speaking her mind.
Okay.
So we will just roll with it. I wanted to go back to why do we have government? We ceded our autonomy and we gave our consent to be governed in order to be taken care of. I want to read just a small little piece of the Declaration of Independence where the men who chose to establish the government in this country had some redressing of oppressions by the king. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury sweeps. A mayor whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. This is our founding document. We have a duty to overthrow the people who choose to not take care of us. That is our duty, not just our right, it is our responsibility. So my question to the city is, when are you guys going to be responsible?
Thank you. I am going to go to the public health component of this. Jennifer, do you want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the COVID update?
Talk about COVID. Change the subject. All spells, change the subject.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Hi, I'm Jenny Hill, and I work at the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment, and I am a technical specialist, and I have been working with a number of our partners, including the Department of Housing Stability, the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, a number of service providers, Denver Public Health, and we've been working on vaccinations for people who don't have homes. At this time, I wanted to share some really good news. After a lot of advocacy with a partnership that we call the Denver Joint Task Force, we have been able to secure 4,600 vaccines solely for people who are experiencing homelessness. Supply had been a major issue previously. In addition, we were able to get the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment to waive the eligibility restrictions. And at this time, with the combined vaccination teams from Denver Public Health, Denver Department of Public Health and Environment's Department Operational Center, sorry, that's a lot of Ds, with collaboration with a team of nurses from the Stout Street Health Center, at this time, we have been able to vaccinate 1,350 people who are experiencing homelessness. The state has approved our outreach and location-based strategy, which means we can partner with a number of organizations and bring the vaccinations where people are. And so that is either in shelter, transitional housing programs, or on the street. And that's really good news because we've been working on that for months. In addition, we provide testing sources or testing resources in collaboration with our partners at Denver Public Health. and we'll continue those efforts. In addition, any organization that wants free surgical masks, we are able to provide those and deliver them. And that's what I have today. Thank you for speaking up.
Thank you, Jenny. That is good news. I appreciate that. Anna, I know you've spoken about this a little bit earlier, but I do want to make sure we get to it on the agenda. You and I talked about making certain that we had some kind of a plan for trash pickup, bathrooms, water, drinking, hand washing, showers, laundry, charging stations, Wi-Fi, mobile hotspots. Do you want to kind of kick that conversation off, and then let's see where that goes in the time we have?
Well, I think probably every unhoused person in here can agree that we need to wash our hands, and we need places to go to the bathroom, and we need garbage pickup. That's not like something we have to think about. It has been the request in 2019 and 2020 and now in 2021. So really all we want is for the city to take some sort of action, to create a plan, to actually do something about these concerns and not just have these meetings where you can like appease us by having been heard, but not actually taking any kind of action to address our concerns. Does that sound about right?
Okay. Couple of comments, and if there's answers from the city or anything like that, I'm certainly open to that too. So let me go with the gentleman here, and then I'll go to you, sir.
Kind of asked some pretty commanding things of you. Constitution, what the founding fathers meant. And what you did was jump straight to COVID. I never knew COVID. Answer the questions you asked.
I actually don't have an answer for that question because
Then let the city say so.
I'm a retired truck driver, okay, 2 years ago for health reasons. So it's part of my reason why I'm homeless. Been here 6-7 weeks. I suggest you guys or whoever, council or whoever you guys are, instead of going to your nice homes, come and stay where we stay. Maybe undercover, do it undercover so you could, this way we'll get more done because when I go, the best part of my day is when I leave the shelter, okay?
Sure.
It's hell getting through the night sometimes.
Hell yeah.
Okay? You gotta go. It's like going to jail, checking in to jail. At the, I'm not downing them or nothing like that, but you gotta experience it for yourself. This way you can bridge the gap. Okay? So that's just one suggestion. The other thing is like, when we gotta realize, man, like, I sell the paper, The Voice, the Denver Voice. I pass tourists all day long. There are people in the city. You guys have been here, man. It's like, okay, those are those people over there. Oh, those are the homeless, the bad people. Okay? So if we can kind of bridge that gap, then there will be more, I think, more progress happening.
Sure.
Okay, because I can't, okay, prime example, right? I got a friend that lets me stay in Inglewood. He's my big brother, right? Sometimes he lets me crash. But I went yesterday to check out a tent city on 16th and Pearl. I went to the gate. The lady said, there are 30 spots. You can't get in here. She said, go to St. Francis in the morning. Went to St. Francis this morning, which I do. After I leave, you know, I'm so traumatized that I don't even remember. Jesus saved this. You know what I'm talking about.
The rescue mission, yes.
The rescue mission.
Joke.
I went to St. Francis this morning. I was juggled back and forth. They didn't know. It's okay. You need to talk to an outreach person to get hooked up, to get on the list, just to get into a tent city.
$3.7 million a year.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
giving to these organizations to help
it's
out
better for us if we can get into these tent cities you guys can start those up, then, because the rescue mission, bro, I'm not gonna just commit a crime today and get checked in, okay? But what I was told, I just want you guys to know, is that, okay, sir, we can put you on the list, but you will probably never ever get into a tent city because it's just impossible. That's what was communicated to me by one of your people at St. Francis. So I just want you guys to know that. And man, I mean, this is a disgrace. One last thing.
Sure.
A society is judged. I don't know who said this. Society is judged by how it treats its weakest and its most vulnerable. I.e. the homeless, the elderly. So, hey, I think we're winning. Okay? I think our society is found wanting.
I appreciate
Okay?
that.
God's judgment is
Well
upon
said.
us.
Let me come back to the question about, trash pickup, bathrooms. Any comment, any direction we can go from the city side on that? Anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, put them out. Yeah, you do what you said you'd do. 4 years now.
Certainly have heard the concerns, and there are things that we have done and understand that they're not always exactly what you've asked for. So by opening shelters 24/7, that means that now there's access to more bathrooms, more services, more meals, and more beds. Understand that that's not where everybody wants to go. So additionally, at the beginning of the pandemic, our colleagues at Parks and Rec, because some of the public restrooms had been closed, did put up hand washing stations, porta potties. And now, with the seasonal weather, some of those public restrooms will be reopening. And so you'll see more and more public restrooms available, including the sign right there to the McNichols building right now. So I understand, and I've heard your concern. There are some resources. I also hear you that they're not exactly where you want or when you want them available. I don't have a solution to offer that caters to that exact need. We're going to keep working on housing, which I hear you want, and the hotel and motel rooms certainly have bathrooms as well. And so there's more and more options.
Let her speak.
Understand that it's not everything that you would like, but it is more. And we're continuing to work on that every day. And our partners around the city departments are.
Thank you. My name's Mark, and I'm grateful to be here, grateful for all the input and what everybody shared. The last gentleman, who's a truck driver, talked about trauma, and I asked somebody, has that been touched on today? And they said no, so I felt led to speak. In a court hearing, there was a Harvard PhD psychiatrist who spent 2 years on the streets working with people who are unhoused. She equated the trauma level of the traumatic dislocations, the forced evictions of people in tent encampments, to the level of a natural disaster. And I thought about that, and there was a period where they were one every 2 or 3 weeks, then there was 1 a week, then there was 2 a week, and then lately there's been 3 a week. This week there's just 1. But as someone who serves and supports people in the community who are unhoused, I agreed. There's the build up and the lead up. When are we gonna get moved? When are we gonna be told we have to leave? That whole build up is a traumatic thing in itself. It's the anticipation, the anxiety. When are they gonna tell us we have to go? Where are we gonna go? The second phase is the day of the actual traumatic eviction. It's very traumatic. I feel like I've probably been to serve and support at 25 out of those 34 that were mentioned. And I can tell you that it's very traumatic. And what people don't see after the city apparatus leaves is the trauma when you go around the neighborhood and you see people crying and talking and yelling and laying on the ground completely exasperated and exhausted. And then there's the aftermath of the storm, which goes on for days and weeks. And mostly in the aftermath, those individuals are traumatically dislocated again. So what we have is a cumulative distress, traumatic distress, one after another, that builds and builds and builds. The outreach teams do their thing. I appreciate a lot of the work that they do, but unfortunately, it's woefully inadequate. We are not fully appreciating the impacts of these traumatic dislocations. We're not fully appreciating the psychosocial impacts, the emotional, psychological trauma. And by the way, Dr. Sorensen stated that the trauma level not only impacts the residents being evicted from their tent encampments, it affects the people that are implementing the evictions. So if the city doesn't think, and I know the police say we're trained to put up with all this, if the city does not understand that this is impacting their own employees that affect these traumatic dislocations, they're going to find out over time the long-term impacts in terms of medical leave and other workman's comp and so forth. So I just want to share that this psychiatrist was asked, are there any studies being done on this? No. And the reality is that the city and the major organization in the city should be conducting health risk assessments, health impact assessments, ongoing research, study, interviewing, surveys to understand the long-term and short-term and mid-term implications of these traumatic dislocations. They're significant. We can't fully appreciate. It was touched on the people who suffered from frostbite. That's just Anschutz. If you go to Swedish and Denver Health and so forth, it's going to be big numbers that suffered from frostbite. Those are complicated cases, long-term. So we're not, my sense is, if I can share today in humility, we're not fully appreciating and understanding and taking time to understand the impacts, the trauma on our unhoused residents and on the community. That's a cumulative deficit effect that's growing and morphing and compounding, and we really need to stop, and we really need to put some real intention into this, from my own humble opinion.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Gentleman in the back.
No more rubber bullets.
David again, I just want to first take note that I think there's probably more trash receptacles in this circle right now than there are in the entire city for people that are unhoused. Secondly, not having an answer is not good enough. It's really not that difficult. Put some trash cans out, pick the trash up, provide a place for somebody to go to the bathroom. I can't say it enough. The bus station is a perfect place to put people. And then on the other side of things, I'm part of a group of people that get together and they help. When people do get finally housed after waiting for 3 years, you put them in a place that doesn't have anything. So who's supplying them with the stuff to put in their house? Who gives them stuff to cook their food? Who gives them a microwave? Who gives them a bed? We do. Why are you guys not providing those things? It's not that hard. We can put a mattress in a place, we can give them a microwave, give them the bare necessities. Everybody deserves to be able to have a meal and take a shit. not that difficult.
Okay, thank you. Anna, and then I'm going to go to the two of you.
So I want to touch on a couple comments that came up before me. So Mark talked a lot about trauma associated with traumatic displacements. Just last week, there was a sweep at 500 Cuevas, and it was not the HOT team. It was, I believe, District 3, and they were not familiar with the way that we operate and the way in which we have mutual aid groups providing support. And so there was only one volunteer that was allowed back behind the fence. And she was helping a gentleman move, and he was so overwhelmed by what was occurring to him that he went into his tent and shot up and started overdosing. And she didn't have her Narcan with her because she cleaned out her car to help people move that day. So a DPD officer administered Narcan, and when this person came to, he was told to keep packing because it's time to move along. That's how our city treats our unhoused. No medical care, no compassion, just move along. When folks suffer so much trauma on the street, we've heard folks here say that they've been on the street 10, 20 years. Those become the resources that have to become permanent supportive housing units that require the $7,200 per unit to provide the services to. The more that we continue to doing traumatic displacements, the more that you are going to assure that we need more of those permanent supportive housing vouchers and subsidies, when we could right now house people and not have to do that long term if we stop causing so much trauma to them. It is fiscally responsible to be housing people now. It is fiscally responsible to be giving people parameters under which they can exist in the city. Myself, Denver Homeless Out Loud, Allies to Abolitionists, Headwaters Protectors, and the City of Denver was asked to a meeting by the Denver Human Rights Council. At that meeting, we agreed that no one should live in a tent, that trash services should be provided, water should be provided, and porta potties should be provided. And the representative from the Denver Human Rights Council said, well, why don't we get all of you in a meeting? And we said we'd love to. We've been asking for that meeting for many years. And the city responded that they already meet. The mayor's office actually is the one who heads that meeting and schedules that meeting and invites people to that meeting, but they refuse to invite us. So we can talk about what the city's not doing. We can talk about what we need. But really what is happening is the city is discriminating against a particular demographic of human beings for which they are responsible for. So again, where is the plan? Headwaters Protectors, Denver Homeless Out Loud agreed that they could come up with a plan and we'd be happy to give it to the city. We would be happy to come up with a garbage proposal and a porta potty proposal, and we'd be happy to just give it to you. You don't have to do the work, but you do have to implement it because you are the one who was elected to them.
Gentleman on my left and then the gentleman on the right.
So I got a comment and I got a question. First comment is, there seems to be more resources in our county jails and our state prisons than there is out here what we've got today. My question is, I want to bounce off that about the bathrooms and the laundry. Small percentage of the homelessness is due to drug use and check my notes here. Drug use and criminal background. But the majority of it is due to financial issues. We need more resources of all kinds for everything to help us homeless people be able to get out there and do what we need to, like our laundry services. We can't afford that because we're trying to save money so we can get an apartment or a house or a trailer or maybe even a tent that we can sleep in on these sidewalks out here. We can't afford to do laundry at $7 a load. What can you do to help us with that?
Okay, thank you.
We'll go back to something Anna said. Some of the city agreed to. More porta potties, more trash cans. They put trash cans all around Coors Field. There's one porta potty by our city big one by Coors Field. There's nobody down there. They're out here. Why aren't they over here where we can use them? I gotta walk a mile to use the bathroom? Walk a mile to use the trash can? Everybody locks their trash cans up because I know a lot of people put crap in there, but we pick up our trash, we have a place to put it. And we're willing to do so, we do so. What are you guys doing? You agreed to a lot of things, like you said, water, hand washing stations, porta potties. You can't put them outside the fucking city and expect us to be able to get to it. Why aren't they down here where the camps are? Why aren't they 4 blocks away instead of by Coors Field? You guys are skirting the fucking issue, playing games. You put something up. So technically you did your job. You didn't do shit. Do something for us, not for your political gain.
Okay, thank you. Both ladies back here.
My name is Ezra. I'm a Tiwa person on stolen Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho land. I'm wondering how many more people need to die out here for the city to fucking do something? Why Chief Pazin can give an hour-long PowerPoint on use of force that was used against us last summer? Right? Money went towards that. That was a quick solution, right? Where the fuck is help for the unhoused community? Why does CPD have a $229 million budget? Why do they show up with pepperball guns at the Arkan sweep? Why is Mark Rudolph going around at 3:30 in the fucking morning during sweeps, taking away people's propane tanks while they're sleeping, saying that's a public safety hazard? Isn't it fucking sad that people have to use propane tanks to stay alive? They have to choose between freezing to death or their tent burning down.
Amen.
What you're giving us here is a fuck ton of bullshit. You're not giving us any answers. And Evan Dreyer, you're a violent man.
I don't need you personally attacking people.
How many more people have to die is my question.
Fair enough.
So far from the city, these representatives have talked about housing that's going to come and house 100 or so people in 2 years. You've talked about the vaccines, which I appreciate, but also your department is one of the major departments signing off on every sweep. And Evan Breyer hasn't said anything. The city has yet to utter the word sweep because they can't address it. And you've heard all these people talk about how cruel it is. And the reason they can't address it is they know it's cruel, and the cruelty is the point. There is no plan. They have no plan for what to do with the unhoused. 100 people a year and a half from now getting housing isn't going to address anything. They're trying to kick people out of the city. They're trying to freeze them to death. They just want them to die because they aren't willing to address anything else. If you haven't been to one of these sweeps, it used to be that they'd show up with a lot of cops, put up police fencing, they'd put up police line, there'd be protesters there, they'd throw folks' stuff away, and in the meantime, not let anyone in to help.
That's right.
During that time, at 29th and Glenarm, they used over 80 officers to sweep 4 tents, didn't offer housing to anyone. One of the women there was waiting on housing in 2 days. She just needed to stay there. All of the residents in the area saw what was going on. Neighbors came out and said they didn't have any problem with the camp being there. They swept using those 80 officers. They came back with batons and nunchucks, beat the shit out of the protesters who were there. And that's a regular occurrence. The same thing happened at the Arkin sweep. And at that sweep, they again used nunchucks, used batons, and arrested unhoused residents who were trying to get to their tents. They're spending thousands of dollars per person at every one of these sweeps. They happen 2 to 3 times a week. It is not a question of resources. The amount of money that's going, it's the same people being swept. It's the same advocates, it's the same unhoused people, it's the same EHS workers, and it's the same cops at every one. For the amount of times that some of the folks out here have been swept, you've spent tens of thousands of dollars just displacing them. And people will come out of their houses and complain. People who hate the unhoused will come out and complain and say, this isn't doing anything. They're just moving a block away, which is true. It's not doing anything. They move people, and what happens? The encampments don't disappear. The people don't disappear. They move maybe a block away until they get swept 2 weeks later. And the point of that is so that their tents get trashed, their heating gets trashed, and they get slowly and slowly pushed to death or displaced fully out of the city so you all don't have to address it at all. It's not a question of resources. It would cost you nothing to stop the sweeps. You would gain so much money. Tens of thousands of dollars every week are being spent on the sweeps. Don't let them tell you that they're trying to do their best. Don't let them tell you that they've got this plan, they're trying to find funding. None of that is true. The cruelty is the point. I am surprised that Evan Breyer has the gall to show his face here and look people in the eye who he's displaced. Normally, you're inside the cage, the fences that they now build, and that they leave up all over the city. They've built permanent fencing. That way, none of the people showing up with food, showing up with moving trucks can easily access the unhoused. And then they leave those up. If you've seen at all recently, almost 80% of the public right-of-ways around town now have either that orange plastic fencing, green fencing, or metal fencing, all of which is a municipal code violation. You cannot block access to the public right-of-way. That's public space. The only justification for putting a fence on there is if there is ongoing landscaping work. There's none of that. When the city leaves an encampment, they don't pick up the trash. It doesn't clean up the actual issues. They leave needles. They leave broken tents or tarps or feces. It's not about cleaning up the trash. It's not about it being a public health issue. It's about displacing and killing these people. And now we've got these fucking fences all up around the city. Luckily, there's some folks bold enough to just take them down because they're not allowed to be there in the first place, which I would encourage anyone to do when you see that. The cruelty is the point. You don't want people camping in the city because you don't like to look at it, and the building developers don't like to look at it because they can't raise the rent because the yuppies who move into the city don't want to look at the unhoused. That's all it is. That's all it is. I've talked to people on the street from other cities, from Texas, from LA, from Dallas, different places, and they say this is one of the worst places that they've come and been treated by the city. The city, in other cities, they have sanctioned areas. They'll let people camp outside, and I know you all have the SOS sites. The SOS project right now is housing under 100 people and is almost $1 million. That amount of money would just let people move into apartments anyways, and it would cost you nothing to stop sweeping people. There's already tent cities. There's already encampments. The encampments that you all design are designed horribly. It doesn't cost 100 people who are just camping out here $1 million to do so. They get by on a much less, but you all come in with this paternalistic attitude, and that's the way that all of you have been talking. You've been talking to these people like they're children. You've been talking to us like we're children, and we need you to solve the problems. And you're not even offering solutions. All we need you to do is leave people alone. And then we can talk about resources. Then we can talk about what you owe people. But the first thing that you owe people is to just let them exist and stop this cruel system that you have designed to kill and displace people. And I dare you to say shit about that. I dare you to relay this to the mayor. Evan, if you have shit to say, you should say it now.
Past significantly past 2:30. I'm going to take your comments, sir, and then I'm going to call it good.
My name's Nate. I'm homeless. I live out here again. I've spoken a couple of times. I'm going to go back to what Diver just said about the porta potties that he had over here on Lawrence or Laramie. I'm not exactly sure what street it is. But, which one? Walnut, that's right, on Walnut. But now that these people have been forced from their campsite, when they were told that they had till tomorrow, when they were forced today, guess what the person with the porta potty said? You guys are gone, so are we. So now we lost a porta potty because you guys forced people to move. Where are you going to put the porta potty? Where are they going to go? They're stressing out about trying to find a place because this is very hard. When the cops show up and all of a sudden you got to move and you're being bullied. They come up with bullshit lies. Oh, it wants to be power washed or this, that. Okay, they do a lot of that. Lying and moving us. So that adds to more of the stress. Because now I got to pick up all my stuff, let alone after all the condensation that's come through, have to dry my blankets. Can't afford laundry. There are no laundry truck services that I've seen lately. All of them are at the shelters. That's a long-ass freaking walk.
It is.
Okay? So not all of us can make that walk. And by the way, we can't use it because we're not part of the shelter. We don't live there. We're not assigned a bed, so we can't use their facilities. So it's only there. And when I walk through those gates, which seems like jail, because it is, the only thing you're missing is a couple of concrete walls and a toilet per each bedroom, they're gonna take my fingernail clippers and call it a weapon. So how am I supposed to groom? If you're gonna take away my tools for living, if you're gonna take everything I need to do to work, you wanna call them a working men's shelter, but yet there's a curfew. If I get off at 7 o'clock and have to take the bus back, I lose my bed, I lose my spot, and chances are, y'all are gonna throw my shit away. I know this from experience. Okay? Y'all threw my medications away. Y'all threw my documentation away. I had to redo and re-get all of that. How is that legal? How is that taking care of a community? It's not. So that's one of the other reasons why we choose to be on the streets. We're tired of your politics. We're tired of your bullshit. Leave us alone. Let us live. Not a handout, a hand up.
Everyone who's been here, I want to thank you for your comments. I've got Sarah typing vigorously and taking notes. On your way out, if you want to pick up a lunch, please feel free to do that. Thank you again. Thank you.